I mean, demanding a jury trial when there already is one is kind of an interesting manoeuvre, but I suppose he's convinced a few people that at least it means he's standing up to these charges, and he is planning to at least put up some kind of story of how it didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. He's obviously always insisted that he's an innocent man and that these claims are made up at best or designed to make somebody wealthy. So the heart of the issue really is they can't both be telling the truth. I mean, one of them is telling a lie, and that is an incredibly serious lie. This isn't a business deal that went wrong for a royal. This is an allegation of sexual assault in a civil court, you know. So I think Andrew probably had no choice. I mean, imagine if he'd settled and he'd given her £30 million or £10 million, whatever it is, and then that comes out. If he'd offered it to her, she'd turned it down before the trial, she'd be able to go on TV and say, look, Prince Andrew's trying to bribe me, buy my silence. So his hands were quite tied, I think. He has to be robust. He has to have his moment in court. And as I say, makes a piece of royal history as he does it.
Well, that's the problem for him now, isn't it, though? Because whatever he does, he's kind of in a bad place because it's dragged on for such a long time. I mean, there'll be people, I imagine, who will say, well, why didn't he just do this earlier? Why didn't he just say all of the things that he's now said in this legal statement from his lawyers, in which he sort of debunks all of her accusations one by one? But he also says that she has no, the court has no jurisdiction over her because she doesn't actually live in Colorado at all. She lives in Australia. He also claims that, you know, this is not a case that can be brought because she is in, I think the legal term is unclean or does not have clean hands, meaning that she also committed various crimes as, you know, as a young woman working for Epstein. So, I mean, he's still sort of trying to get it dismissed, isn't he?
Well, I mean, in fairness to Prince Andrew, given how serious these accusations are, I mean, nobody, guilty or innocent, would ever want to really put themselves through a public humiliation that Prince Andrew now has to go through. Yeah. So I think, in fairness to him, a lawyer would try and use every means possible to find a loophole. But you know what? I think actually Prince Andrew's quite lucky in this respect. He's lucky that his lawyers have failed in all their attempts so far to have this case thrown out before it comes to trial. Because I think, make no mistake, Andrew's already damaged beyond repair. I don't think his reputation will continue. And in the years gone by, when history looks back at Prince Andrew, the Queen's second son, they won't remember a Falklands War hero. They will already remember a guy who had a very strange relationship with a paedophile and was accused of all these horrible things. It's not about that now. It's about damage limitation. And the only option Prince Andrew has now is to stand up, say in court, let his lawyers pick apart the argument and let a jury decide which one of the two of them is telling the truth.
But, of course, the big problem for him now, or the next big problem for him, is the deposition, because we're at the stage of deposition where, for people in this country who don't understand what that is, that's when lawyers basically put you under oath, sit you in a room, and ask you a load of really, really difficult questions. Now, he wasn't brilliant with Emily Maitlis, so I can't imagine he's going to be that good with one of America's top deposition lawyers quizzing him for about 7 hours, which I think they're allowed to do.
Well, if you were a highly paid lawyer trying to prepare Prince Andrew for an appearance in front of a jury and you looked at the BBC interview, I think you'd tear all your hair out. I mean, I don't, you know, OK, Prince Andrew demands a jury trial and that's his right. You know, he has to clear the air. But are the jury going to have the same reaction that the British public had when he shows no empathy with victims of horrendous crimes, who comes across as aloof and arrogant and self-centred and not particularly clever? That's just the view of the Emily Maitlis thing. Of course, he might do fine in court, but I think he needs to get out some practice to start talking to the mirror for a bit. Not the newspaper.
Exactly right. Well, he might not do a bad. Might not be bad for him to talk to some newspaper. But I mean, this is the trouble with him, is that he's led this life of privilege, and I mean, he really is probably one of the most privileged members of the royal family. He never really thought that the rules applied to him. I mean, never mind Boris Johnson. I mean, this guy makes Boris Johnson look like a law-abiding citizen, you know, who's never told a lie in his life. And this guy just got on helicopters, flew around the world. Took part in sort of trade missions, always managed to squeeze in around a Gulf somewhere. You know, he's not used to being quizzed by anyone.
Well, I mean, I've covered the royal family for about the past 15, 20 years. And as far as I'm concerned, even if you took the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing out of the way, I think you've still got a pretty rotten apple in Prince Andrew. What does he do? What does he stand for? And the number of stories we wrote about him going and picking up an environmental award in Switzerland.
Right.
In a private jet.
Right.
You know, So he's not a guy with a great track record. All his business dealings and relationships with sort of oligarchs around the world will probably now get the scrutiny that I think it's deserved for a long time. And as I say, that's why I don't think Prince Andrew is going to recover from this. It's a question of how much damage will it now do to the British royal family in a year when we are all supposed to be celebrating 70-year achievement of the Queen.
Well, it's going to be pretty weird, isn't it, on the actual Platinum Jubilee day, the celebration itself, when there's supposed to be, you know, a whole range of former members of the royal family, ex-wives, husbands, all the rest of it. There's not going to be very many of them there, are there?
Well, no, I don't think that Harry and Meghan are likely to be there. And obviously now I think with a court case pending, Prince Andrew was even less likely to be there. Look, it casts a shadow. I mean, ultimately, it's about the Queen, I think. I mean, she's now caught in this horrific dilemma or split loyalty. She's the head of an institution she's led for 70 years and has to do the right thing for the monarchy. But Andrew's her son, you know, and he is accused of this. She wants to be a support to him. But so she's got all of that going on. And frankly, when she smiles and waves at the crowd, you wonder or not whether that's just a pretty unwelcome distraction at this time now.
Yeah, I mean, it really is such a shame for her in this, as I say, Platinum Jubilee year. But Duncan, thanks very much indeed. Duncan Larcombe there talking to us about the dreadful situation now with Prince Andrew, where he's sort of damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. But what he now is laying himself open to is what perhaps some people said he should never do because it would only incriminate him, which is to be basically subject himself to a very, very long interrogation, effectively, under oath, which means he can't afford to tell a lie,